Hey guys, I'm just gonna be doing this video from several places. So the why it's important to keep a record uh, when you deal with either employers or in general anybody. The reason is for your own protection in a way, and so let's go. Why it's important to have really good record about your employer, but not just the employer itself, but the action they take against you, even if it's not damaging when you look at it on the first sight. I made a video, a short, like a week or so ago, about my former employer that I ended up dealing with the last human resources officer, bringing the entire 14 years of my employment with the company at the time. And and I kept the records, but what it taught me, it's really interesting. Keep records, for instance, from the first day you show up at work. Then, uh, because then you kind of collect it, digitize it, and so on. So you have to make sure that you have uh, records of what they do, and it's not just for the stuff they do, but this is a pattern. You, after a while, if you are gang stalked and targeted and you're gang stalked, you will have a pattern of actions. Not just that, the pattern of actions that actually you missed. For instance, if you have some kind of entrapment or you have some kind of a stuff done against you, you will have, and you haven't noticed, usually there can be some kind of a provocation after it wasn't done. Um, Here in the South, I have several where usually it's after the gang stalkers could not do anything for specific stuff, they would create a, in my opinion, in my case, it was racial provocation. And so it's done on purpose by the employers in order to keep you in control. For instance, they invest a lot of time and sometimes even money in order to make you look a specific way and then conduct their thing. And when they fail, they lose in a way investment in you. So the only way they would do something is they would create some kind of provocation that they make you the to look like you are wrong or did something wrong. In this way, they get you fired, and when they get you fired, you will have uh, bad employment records. So it's in a way a form of perpetual impoverishment, and they will just simply push it. It can be repeating itself, and they will give you bad references, or even don't give you any references. Fortunately, lately the law forbids to like do stuff. Yeah, I will answer questions when I'm done. I need to do a specific speech, and then I will answer questions, guys. Okay. So the that's why you start keeping records from day one. When employer, it's not just that employer kind of give a hint to you through their actions. No, doesn't matter. Employer can be really wonderful when you start, and usually when you are gang stalked, you can have uh, you can you can suddenly this employer can change, and you can have crap flying into you in a way. So uh, from day one when you start the employment, you usually start the um, create records. And if people say, for instance, what you're doing, here's the deal. For instance, you carry with yourself a book, a small book that you write in stuff, and the if they ask you what are you writing in, you can say very simple. Some of the writers or journalists, what they do writing in three columns. So you have to, what you do, you just do the separate one page in three, and this way you can first accuse you up, write about like a adventure of somebody. If somebody asks you what are you writing, some people are really arrogant. They're simply gonna just go and look at what you're writing. Then you just have several words there written on the top that kind of doesn't have anything to do with whatever you're doing in real. And then you write three stuff. You write what happened and what you feel. How do you feel about it? And the second and third column is who was around you. And this is done on purpose. It should be done on purpose. This way you can recall things after they're done. Okay. And specifically, as I said, I was at the beginning was kind of a dismissing, but actually it's one of the things. So with Jesse Penny company that I work for 14 years, the keeping of my records, specifically just before I was not allowed to work, even though I never was fired, because if you get fired, as I said, they can do stuff, but they make it the way that supposedly I made a mistake and resign by, in a way, on my own will, but actually it wasn't. They forced me to not to do a specific thing. Anyway, so, and then after a while, you um, review your like when you go home and you review your writings, and uh, with training after few months you will be able to recall without actually looking in this book. You can go home and read things, or uh, it just they're gonna kind of reappear in your memory, and then you can control things. And in the end, you will find out, believe me, that there is a pattern of behavior that is against you, and then you realize this is what gang stalking is. Gang stalking is part of it, specifically if they try to rob you of your labor. If they want you to perform a labor and then not to get paid properly, or simply taking away the possibility of promotion, you will see the pattern before that. Okay. Now, before, if you are getting fired or just simply make it the way to quit, it happens the same thing. Suddenly, you will have uh, things happening. And one of those things happening, as I said, was happening to me. Uh, you will be getting provocations, and these provocations you'll be written off about. Okay. And the other thing is the stuff that you've written off about, you will not be receiving copies of it. Why it's done this way? For instance, if you are uh, targeted, you will have some people will create a situation. They will call you to the management office. They will write something there. I mean, they will keep a records, and then uh, they will write a report that is against you. Then you can get being written up, but you never get documentation for being written up. And after, if everything is fine, they see the gang stalkers don't want you fired right away. Gang stalkers will want you fired in the end when they completely lose control of you. And the reason it's done simply that they can deprive you of income. And but until then, they will try to play things in order to manipulate, because they have some kind of a goal of their agenda toward you. And sometimes it takes time, or even if they fail, they will redo something and start something anew, and you will be targeted again in different form. Okay. So every time I had a situation with JCPenney, I had a conflict because of the gang stalking and harassment at work. I was written up without me knowing it. And then 10 years later, I had a conflict again from a new person that come. What they do, they when the new manager comes, he doesn't know what's the deal is with relationship with you and management. They don't know usually you gang stalked. They got told later. But in the beginning, they will throw the new manager against you in order to just have some kind of a small conflict. And then what happened is I was already seasoned and have a lot of experience, and I requested documents. And then uh, 12 years later, from the previous situation I had, one of the previous situations, the management brought a letter that I was being written up, but I never got it because, as I said, it was 12 years before that. So, and then they will just simply pull stuff like this and say, you see, he's always is scandalous. He's a troublemaker and so on. That's how management controls the narrative sometimes. They will hide documents, they will do stuff, and then when you ask for your rights, if you ask to do this, if you ask for ethics to be applied to you, uh, they will bring something and say you are a troublemaker. You see what I mean? So that's why every time when you have a situation that is regarding gang stalking, harassment, and work and so on, and you are called and into the either human resources office or office with the management, just simply make sure that after it's done, you go to through human resources, you request written form. Usually the best is through email, of course. They can send you a copy, but not just that. You will see if they refuse to answer. If they refuse to answer, highly likely they don't want to write anything because they've done something wrong, or they don't want you to keep this thing on the records for you. So after years, usually there's some time comes when the management no longer can control you. You see, the gang stalking and mobbing at work is done on purpose to keep person intact and in control. And then when target individual understand what's going on and start controlling the game, usually they're dismissed. And they're dismissed through, I will call it collective punishment. In a way, they would send a request for everybody who is in the company to do a specific documentation sign. And with me was I had to sign an ethics agreement, and this ethics agreement, upon my signing, I would have been fired right away. Before that, the company promised me that this is what they always do. They promised some kind of an incentive, and this incentive was if I closed the department that I work with for a long time, I would be laid off. And to make sure I believe it, they laid off another person that was close to me, a friend of mine. And suddenly they turned around and said, no layoff for you. And layoff is usually with unemployment. It's not just with unemployment, it's with severance pay, because I worked for them for 14 years. I was going further to 15 years. So this is the deal. If you are targeted, make sure that you do it since day one. All right, and what you should do is, it's not just patterns for all of it. Just keep patterns as well for specific managers. You will have something like this. You will have one manager that will be, I wouldn't call it attached to you, but you will have gang stalking situations at work, and they will start by this specific person will call you or will go to investigate stuff that related to you at work, and of course it always ends up not in your favor, but keep in a way record. And next time, if you are already, when you're going to be seasoned targeted individual, and you will expect something to happen, you will see that this manager or group of managers will call you somewhere or do something that will affect you and point you in a specific direction to be set up or be in some kind of a conflict. It's a good thing actually, because you can predict stuff. And what I would suggest you to do is keep a record. When you keep a record, then you have a pattern, and then you can de facto accuse them of stuff like discrimination, which is discrimination, or some kind of a hostile conduct. And it's not just him that goes or her goes into the pot, but not just them, but everybody who allowed them to participate in it. And so make sure that you keep record again. You see, gang stalking is a science, and you're gonna break it in your favor if you're smart enough. They're always powerful, but sometimes fate is on their side.